and Grandpa. Let's wander back into the past, then paint me the picture of long ago.
Welcome back to the History of Hill Farms. Time to talk about the 80s. The next big generational change here at from Pfeiffer Hill to what is now Hill Farms. So we were at a period here in the 80s. Steve graduated, my brother Steve graduated I think in 1981.
Oh.
I graduated in 1984. This was at a period where you and Kenny were running one side of the Pfeiffer Hill, and you and Uncle Bus were running the other side of Pfeiffer Hill. Now at this point, Uncle Bus would have been, what, mid-70s?
Yeah, mid-70s. I'm not exactly sure the year he was born, but
somewhere in that vicinity he would have been.
Right, and he was getting to the point physically it was getting harder for him.
Yeah.
And he was losing interest in it because it really. He said, no, he told me, he said he had no reason to go and buy a lot of equipment, but he said he knew we needed the equipment. It was time we had to get tractors and we had to get land.
We were at a period where we
had to change the land.
Change was inevitable. And so this is the same time Kenny kind of had a vision to move a different way.
I think he had gotten a job out near Reading somewhere, and he was starting in the field.
By the 80s.
The undertaker business.
Yeah.
Right.
So Uncle Bus had to decide where he wanted to go with.
Well, Uncle Bus and Kenny decided apparently that they just wanted to sell the farm, so they sold us their interest in the farm.
Yeah. So then what ended up happening at the end, Steve and I bought their interests, and that formed the modern day Hill Farms.
Well, that's actually when things started changing. When you guys got involved, I got to give you credit for that because. Uncle Bus and we made a lot of changes, but never the kind of changes you guys made.
Well, it ended up becoming, we would have been the first ones that are actually, this is going to be a full-time, our only source of income was going to be the farm. So the funny thing is, though, shortly after, that would have been, I guess, around 85, 86, where we bought the farm from Bus and Kenny. It was a year or two after I graduated high school. And then, at the same time, shortly thereafter, we signed an agreement. Uncle Bus and Kenny financed us. Which would have been the only way that really probably no bank would have ever, because there's too much risk involved. So it worked out for both parties, though, because it would have been difficult for them to sell without financing it because
we had to keep the farm running, and
the crop is where the value was at that time,
right.
And that needed to be taken care of, or it wasn't worth anything. So both parties ended up in the end making out they got their equity out of the business and the value of the business,
and I had heard a lot of sleepless nights.
But so then it ended up at that point, though, shortly after the 80 acres, roughly the 78, 80 acres that you guys had amassed was sold to us. We had some other interesting things happen. It just seemed everything came together at one time.
Well, there were 3 pieces of land came for sale at the same time, and every one of them came to us and said we want you to buy it.
Yeah, so that made it difficult because we were already chewing on one big acquisition. Fortunately, though, they came to us because they wanted to see the land stay in farmland.
Well, I must say this: we always got along good with our neighbors, and it really paid off because if they'd have gone to realtors, we'd have never gotten the land. In fact, I think they all took a little less than they would have gotten if they'd have gone to realtors.
Plus, they financed it.
They financed it, and they wanted to see it remain farm.
Yeah.
And I made a promise to each one of them: as long as I'm alive, this will be a farm. I said, there's not going to be any housing project on this. I'm not buying it for that reason.
So that ended up becoming we were able to swing that, and a lot of debt.
As I said, a lot of sleepless nights.
A lot of difficult decisions still had to be made because at the same time the industry was in transition, and from farming here for all those years, we needed to make some investment in the land, investment in the business. That transition. That's why
we bought our first tractor, and we started getting things like that. And of course, you guys know that you and Steve worked for almost nothing. I mean, it was in lieu of going to college. Steve started college and hated it, so he wanted to come back. And I said to him, "Now you know what this means. I mean, do you want to work like this the rest of your life?" Yeah. Well, so both of you decided that, and you both have honored your commitment.
But we needed to also, at that same time, you realized that we needed to rejuvenate the land. We needed to, in essence, we clear-cut the farm and relayed it out.
Well, we bought that rotobeater that would beat up the land and the stumps, and
Yeah, which allowed us it allowed us to set the farm up the way it is today, and
Right.
it's
That's
simply
just
because things had changed. The equipment had changed.
Right.
The way you raise Christmas trees had changed. So that transition needed to take place.
and we had to buy big tractors because we had to have a powerful tractor that could run the rotobeater.
Right.
And it had to have a special gear so it would run slow enough.
So we really took a farm that was farming the old way and transitioned to the new way of farming, which was with equipment.
Well, you sure did.
Manpower has changed, and it was a necessity. Uncle Bus saw that probably, and then, as you said, he realized that investments needed to be made. And
Well, he was too old, and with Kenny losing interest in farming, more interested in his other field, he saw that there was no use of him making any investments.
you had to stay competitive with other people
Right.
that were making those investments. So that was the important part there. So then. What ended up happening is we've expanded the farm now to 200 acres, and at that point, we were going to proceed with cleaning up the old farm, laying it out the way we felt it needed to be laid out to be competitive going forward. So we made those investments, and really, at that time, the Fraser fir were just starting to come in, which was a big boost for us.
It was a big boost,
We had to really just chew on that for a while and get all this stuff done, and we kind of ground away and slowly got
Well,
the farms paid off.
The biggest change probably came when you guys took this woods down here and turned it into a parking lot and into a gift shop.
Well, that really took place. I guess that was more, in the '90s, late '90s,
in
early
the 90s,
2000s.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I guess
it took a
it
while
was,
for us to get all the investment
right.
paid off and to move forward. So that was the goal. And of course, sometimes goals change, and we surely
We now load 5 tractor trailers in the time it took us to load 1.
and those because the manpower had changed, and we all realized that
And we don't
were
work
gonna
as
have to
hard.
change with that.
It's amazing, but
Yeah, so that really by the end of the '80s, the farm was in tremendous transition. We were trying to modernize and stay ahead of the curve.
well, it took a lot of investment too. We had to buy all those plants. We were planting like 20,000 plants there, and it
Yeah.
took a lot of money to buy all those plants.
And it was a huge, and of course, with all the other risks, by increasing the number of plants that we were planting, we needed to find a market for those, which was a leap of faith because we felt that our name in the industry was strong and that we would be able to find customers, but you never know until you actually acquire those customers and start doing business how it's going to work out. And I must say we've been very fortunate because we have
That's never really been a problem.
we have
for us.
long relationships with customers. To some of the customers that
We have some from the 50s.
that we now have, are in excess of 50 years we've been doing business,
We're
and
doing business with the grandchildren of the original buyer.
Yeah.
And
which is really unique because how often does that take place? We transition our business through multi-generations, and so have they. And
well, and
we've
to
stayed together.
show the faith that these people have is virtually none of our customers today, they just send you an order.
Yeah, they don't even
They don't even come and look at the trees. They know what they're going to get. They expect a certain product, and you guys have been providing it, and they're satisfied. So you've already got orders this year for the trees to be sold
Right.
this fall.
So the '80s were a period of transition. That's when the third generation got involved in the farm, and that was really where the major changes were going to take place to make it the modern farm that it is today. So we're going to leave it there, and we'll talk more about the '80s and '90s in our next episode. We hope you enjoy our series, The History of Hill Farms. If you have any questions about anything that you've seen in the video, please post a question in the comments section, and we'll try to get back to you. Also, if there's anything you'd like to see in future episodes, please let us know. Thanks a lot.
Grandpa, tell me about the good